Oh, I'm not going to lie. I missed it when Vader had his own theme music. We knew he was coming. He knew he was coming. We knew that he knew that we knew that he was coming. Those were good days. Good days. Greetings and welcome to Roman of the Empire. I am your host, Roman. Today we are talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi, episode 4 of 6, for those keeping score, on Disney Plus Star Wars. So, the last episode had us with the cliffhanger of Obi-Wan getting cooked by Darth Vader and rescued by Tala and her droid, and Leia getting snatched up by the delightful Reva on Mapuzu. That's where we left off. So this episode, without going into spoilers first, had pretty much, I want to say it was the same pacing, but it might have actually been a bit slower. But the visuals on this episode I thought were actually pretty good, except for the end when it really looked like the ships are just shoved into the scene. Not very well done editing on that. But the look, we do get to see just inside the Inquisitors base. And I've talked before how much I like the look of that base. And we see a lot more of that in this episode. And I thought that was pretty good. But we end up with the ultimately overall with this episode, and all the episodes forward to are now tainted with the timeline canon wrecking material. These events just shouldn't be happening, but here we are. So Obi-Wan gets to do some Jedi stuff in this episode. That's good. We see more stormtroopers being wildly inept and great security failures on the part of the Empire, which we've seen in the past. It's an older code, so, but I was going to let them through. Leave them to me. Basically meaning you incompetent idiot. But overall as an episode, it was about the same as last time. Like I said, pace was a bit slow, but you got a lot of the same type elements. So, I'm going to go into spoilers now. There's not a point dwelling too long on the other stuff. So, we opened with battle-damaged Obi-Wan getting taken to the network base on Jabim, is the name of the planet. If you remember, Tala talked about that last time and where they were going to be going. And he gets dumped right into a vodka tank. You know, the same thing that Boba Fett uses and where Vader spends most of his spare time. And we get an interesting juxtaposition of shots here where he's having visions of his lightsaber battle with Vader, and then you're juxtaposed to Vader in the tank as well. Not the same tank, obviously. That would be awkward. So that's kind of an interesting, but of course Obi-Wan has to jump out before the healing's done because that's what you do. So this is the pre-rebellion group, remember. This is not the well-organized group of rebels that we are used to. That's in the works, but hasn't happened yet. So they've tracked Leia to the Inquisitors base on Nur, which is an uninteresting planet name, well, a moon name, it's a moon. It's a water moon in the Mustafar system. Mustafar belongs to Vader. That's his system. That's where, fell into the lava pit. Apparently he's just comfortable with it now and calls it home. So, Lord. Vader isn't there. They also know that. He's not in the Mustafar system. Obi-Wan's concerned about this because he wants to go rescue Leia. And now the pre-rebellion groups, so Obi-Wan's like, hey, I need to go rescue Leia. And the pre-rebellion folks are like, yeah, no, we're not soldiers. And then Tala's like, oh, I'm an Imperial officer and a spy. I'll take you. So, got it. Meanwhile, the delightful Reva is questioning 10-year-old Leia, who looks like she's 4 years old. And the delightful Reva tells her that Obi-Wan is dead and that she's on her own. But yes, infant Leia refuses to give up information. I feel bad for this actress. If she's actually 10, I'm really surprised. Like I said, she's really small and her movements are awkward. And anyway, so Reva somehow ends up with Leia's little droid thing. You remember this was tried to attack Reva, which was stupid, but Reva grabs it and she's like, hey, I had a droid when I was younger. They took that like they took everything from me. Okay, you're very angry. She's bitter, she's irritating, she's a poorly written character. But that scene with the droid is important in its own way. But like I said, I like the look of the base. I think the base is cool. It looks Imperial. It's in a different setting, the whole underwater base thing. I like it. You know, that's of the many things I don't like about the show, I do like that. And then Reva decides she's going to torture the 10-year-old child who looks like she's 4. So, in a remarkable failing of both security protocol and basic procedures for any military installation, Talia just lands her ship at the Inquisitor base because there's no shields because they don't think anyone will ever come there. Oh, okay. And then walks in like she owns the place. Her credentials don't match. The security officer is like, hey, your shit doesn't work. And she's like, do you know who I am? Which, of course, that's how you get through. You just tell them, don't you know who I am? And they let you through, because why wouldn't they? And then she takes up a spot at it's a communications area is what it looks like. It's kind of an undefined area with a bunch of Imperial people working at stations. So she just plops down, and then she's talking to Obi-Wan, but she's talking quietly on a comm. So, which isn't weird at all, and letting him know that she's opening a port underneath the base so he can get on in. He's swimming, doing that Jedi underwater thing. This scene is a disaster. There are so many things wrong with why this is a disaster. When you're trying to do something secret, you don't do it in a room full of the bad guys, and you certainly aren't talking about it out loud, and you're not opening ports. Surely there is some system within the station that lets people know when there is a breach of some kind. Like I said, there's just a lot of failures on this stuff. And eventually, one of the other officers is like, you don't belong here, come with me. And then she kills him and goes back to the station. Quick, it's easy, right? Because everything is easy. Obi-Wan's running around. So he's down in like the lower levels of this thing now. And he finds what looks to be like a tomb. It's creepy. There are Jedi who are either dead or in suspended animation. And it kind of looks like amber. We don't know what this is about. And maybe we'll find out the point to this, or maybe this is just another unfollowed plot device. But it did look interesting. So he senses Leia is about to be tortured by the delightful Reva and asks Talia via the comlink to make a distraction. Okay, fine. Talia pulls the delightful Reva away from the torture chamber and tells her she has info about the path. That's what they're calling the network, the pre-rebel network, and where Obi-Wan went after Mapuzo. Well, the delightful Reva isn't buying this. And so Obi-Wan's he takes advantage of the situation. You know, Reva's not there to torture Leia. Talia's doing her job and distracting her, and Obi-Wan actually does some Force stuff and takes down some stormtroopers. That's pretty cool. It's a dark chamber with the lightsaber opening up with some dim red light going on in the background. Visually, it's a nice scene. It's not very eloquent work with the lightsaber, but he does the job. So they get out, but while they get out, of course, oh Lord, they aren't careful enough, and a sentry droid spots them, sounding the alarm. Now the delightful Reva knows that, good Lord, I've lost her name. Tala has given them. She's a spy. She tells the stormtroopers to take care of her, and then she goes off to take care of what she assumes is Obi-Wan. Okay. Well, about a half second after that, Tala kills the stormtroopers and goes off to find Obi-Wan and Leia. In the meanwhile, Obi-Wan is actually doing Force stuff here. This isn't a bad scene. It's a decent scene. I can never say they're great scenes because there haven't been those, where he's fighting stormtroopers, rescuing Leia, and you're getting just a lot of fire play and lightsaber work in the hallways of this underground base. And it is very cool to see that. I wish it was more interesting plot, but it is what it is. So, of course, they get this wrapped up, because everything wraps up very easily in this series. And Tala, Obi-Wan, and Leia end up in the hangar of the base so they can get to the ship. The base is on high alert. And Obi-Wan has Leia hiding under a long Imperial coat. It looks utterly absurd and ridiculous. And even if you weren't on high alert, it's an odd-looking visual that no one is going to buy. It looks bad. It's a stupid scene. So, of course, no one notices them until the delightful Reva shows up and shouts, "Traitor!" And Tala turns around and, oh, the gig is up. Everyone's got their guns pointed at them. Finally, the odd-looking people in the hangar. And here's where it gets lazy again, because there are no shields. The rebels, the pre-rebels, they're not quite rebels yet, come in with some speeder. They look like snow speeders. We'll call them that they're not snow speeders, obviously. They're just speeders, but not to be confused with land speeders, though. And they shoot the shit out of the hangar base, somehow managing not to kill Leia, Talia, or Obi-Wan. And getting them off, they lose one of the ships. People are sad. This is lazy. This whole scene was just lazy as all hell. No alarms, no shields, easy plot devices so our people can escape. It's not good writing. We go back to that again and again with this series. It's not good writing. So Vader shows up. He's pissed off that the delightful Reva let them escape. He's force choking her, doing what Vader does. But then she's like, and he lets up for a second, and she tells Vader that she put a tracker on Obi-Wan or with them so they can track Obi-Wan and they'll know the way of the path and they can take down the network. And Vader's like, "I underestimated you." Cool. Sure, you underestimated her. So she's off the hook for letting things go because she had a better plan, because she always will. And we end up with Leia's droid glowing as they're making their escape in the ship at the end. That way you know that's where the tracker is, even though you know there's a tracker there somewhere. So that's the episode in a nutshell. Visually, I thought it was decent, except for those speeders coming into the end, the pre-rebel ships. That did not look good. Like I said, they just pop into the camera, and it's not quality effects. The writing was lazy, as mentioned, and I'm having a hard time getting past the fact that none of this should be taking place at all, because Kenobi never met Leia except when she was a baby, and Vader and Kenobi never saw each other after Mustafar, before the encounter on the Death Star. Canon. It all goes back to that, because you can't fix this. It just is. So there's only 2 more. This should have been the crown jewel of Disney Plus Star Wars, but instead you have a show that's not as good as The Mandalorian, who was a character you'd never met before, and that was done better. So there's more Disney Plus Star Wars on the way. Skeleton Crew with Jude Law, Ahsoka with Rosario Dawson. But after the disaster this show is proven to be, despite the fact that this is the one that we were all waiting for, I don't have any hope for these other shows. I wanted to, but alas, I can't. Give me a better show. Write better. Someone knows how to do it. Obviously, this production crew doesn't. They don't give a shit about canon. Fans care about canon. How about you actually write what the fans want instead of what you think they want? You could do a little group on that. Maybe you should have brought some people in like they brought in on the Lord of the Rings series, except, the super fans. But then you're just paying them off to say your show is good. Anyway, this is a disappointed Roman of the Empire. Please like and subscribe. Signing off, be kind.